Hey everyone! So today's video is going to be kinky. No, I'm just teasing. It's going to be fun. We're going to be discussing kinks. What are they? Where do they come from? And why do we have them? This is going to be a very basic intro. I will be doing more videos, getting more in depth into the individual kinks. This one is just a very quick introduction to kind of tell you what kinks are, why, and I don't know, we'll see where we go. So, I guess to just start this on a little bit of a weird note, a lot of kinks actually come from our childhoods. It's things that we experience pleasure from, and not in like a sexual, but like in a good way. Like people who have furry fetishes might have had teddy bears they very much enjoyed. Now, some come from anime and other places where we've seen, but typically there's a sensory aspect to it. It's, you felt something like raincoats in England. Leather is a huge fetish. They are linking the raincoats and other rain gear to kind of show what was going on. So that's just an interesting fact. But a lot of them start from childhood. It's things that we got pleasure from. Some things, like when we're getting into BDSM kinks, tend to come from things like watching childhood shows like The Princess being saved and the terrible things that might happen to her if he doesn't show up in time. Some of us girls were more fantasizing about the evil things that could happen than the saving. Some girls are fantasizing about the saving. Some guys are fantasizing about being saved. Like, it really doesn't matter. It comes down to this whole what we experience pleasure from. And then it turns into more as we get older. Like, I mean, it's not just it doesn't just end there. That's just where it starts. And then it'll turn into other things. So we might be influenced by books, by TV, seeing things visually. Sometimes it's all in our minds. Like, I was always told, oh, if you watch porn, it's going to be burning your brain. No. Like, if it's something I enjoyed, then yes, probably I'll think about it. If not, then it's going to just be gone and it's done and I didn't think about it. Because why do we need to think about something we don't enjoy? But this is what it comes down to. And sometimes there are other aspects as we get older that trigger things. Like you have people who get put into high pressure, controlled work situations that enjoy kind of panning off into the someone take the control away. It doesn't have to be about BDSM, just that removal of control. That they don't want to make the decisions. They don't want to be the leaders for 20 minutes at the end of the day. And that's fine. We all go through these different phases, which is why I like to talk about it. I like to kind of bring it up, and I'm doing this quick little introduction because my week was all messed up. So my videos are kind of short this week, and I'm sorry, and they're not going to be the most fantastic, but I am trying to make sure my information is getting out there, that I am doing on track to kind of what I wanted to do. So here we are. Like I said, there will be more breaking down each individual kind of kink. I'll be doing videos on each one because there is like at least 15 minutes worth of talking on each one. But I kind of wanted to get us all thinking about it because I want to tackle that next week, maybe on my Tuesday episode. I will throw that out there and breaking down. We'll start maybe with BDSM, maybe with something different. I don't know. We'll see. See how I'm feeling. But I do want to start doing that. Maybe I'll kind of branch off into just that for a little bit, into the different kinds of kinks and where they all come from. But on a whole, we all have them. We all have something that gets us going. Now, again, with age, sometimes it changes. Your kinks get less important. Sometimes you'll be just as turned on by some kind of fantasy enactment as if your partner goes and does the dishes. We all get different things that kind of crank us at some point or another. But we all have them, and we all need to embrace them. Just discuss them with your partner. Don't be afraid to talk about it, which brings me to another point, which is we all need to be open with our partners because we're ever changing. We aren't always going to like the same things. We aren't always going to want the same things. So we have to be open to compromise with each other, to be open to a different line of thinking, because sometimes there is going to be a little twig. Like someone might, be very interested in BDSM and they might find a partner who's been abused and just don't want to go down that road. Is that a choice they're willing to make? That all has to be discussed. So don't be afraid to discuss these things. Like if someone's making you uncomfortable, tell them. Don't leave it to them to figure it out. If you're not comfortable, tell them, talk to them. Now, if they don't reciprocate, well, then you might be dealing with what we talked about with my last video in means of just a danger zone. If they're not willing to listen and willing to talk to you, then maybe you're dealing with a different kind of situation that you don't want to put yourself into, and you might just want to leave it at that and move on to someone who is willing to talk to you and have a conversation about it. And just keep things open, because you never know, right? You always want to keep things open for conversation. There might be a change. You know, people may have may have children and their whole sex lives change. Sometimes it's going through trauma of any kind. Like I mean like a car accident or just an injury of some form or any kind of trauma they might go through. And then you have to learn to deal with that in a different way. But you have to be open to compromise. You have to be open to discussion. So keep that open. We all have kinks, so let's not be afraid to discuss them. And let's realize that they do come from a much deeper place than just, oh, they're just a deviant who likes this. No, not at all. They're just human like everybody else who happens to find a certain aspect of life interesting. And there's nothing wrong with being interested in one aspect or another of life. Let's just discuss it. Where is the harm? You might talk about it and realize that you are just not meant to be. End of conversation. Move on before you've even finished that third date's dinner. Because, you know, that's the rule, 3 dates. I don't know. I don't follow that. I go with whenever it feels right. I go with it. But, you know, you want to know before you're in bed with them, before you're committing to them, that they're willing to talk. They're willing to discuss it. And just be like, is this something you like? Is it something I like? Is it something we can agree on or not? Moving on if we can't, before our hearts get involved. You know, we don't have to necessarily do anything with a partner to know if we're sexually compatible. We can just have a conversation and usually get a pretty good vibe for, like, are we on excuse me, are we on completely different levels, or are we on at least a similar page? But we got to talk about it. We got to discuss it. And we got to open up our minds to, it's not just, oh, they're a deviant because they like a certain thing. We all like certain things. Some people's are less extravagant. Some people's are more so. It really depends on the person and what they've been exposed to understand what kinks are and what their benefits are. And there are benefits. If we allow ourselves to expel through fantasy and different things, then we do end up with happier lives outside of the bedroom. We end up with more fulfilled lives outside of the bedroom because we're meeting those fantasies that you can't get in the real world. Not in a real way, because nothing is the same in reality as it is in fantasy. So we have to be able to explore these fantasies with, at least with ourselves and then with our partners, to find happiness with that partner. So, alright, that wraps it up for the day. I hope you enjoyed my video. Please click like and subscribe down below, and I will see you next week.